Welcome back to Count Me In, IMA's podcast about all things affecting the accounting and finance world. I'm your host, Adam Larson, and today I'm here to introduce you to the guest speaker of episode 116 of our series. My co-host Ruba Zidan sat down with Dr. Ahmed Yamen, an associate professor of accounting at the American University of the Middle East in Kuwait. During their conversation, they addressed whether digitalization is the beginning of the end for financial crime. With financial crimes on the rise, Dr. Yamen talks about how it is evolving and what the industry can do to limit the potential risks of becoming the next target. Let's listen to what he has to say now.
So, good afternoon, Dr. Yamen, and thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Count Me In.
Thank you for your invitation at the beginning, and thank you for the IMA.
A PWC survey published in March of last year found that fraud and financial crime are on the rise in the Middle East. The surveyed companies reported losses of some $42 billion in the past 24 months alone due to financial crimes. Can such crimes impact the economy? And if so, how?
Actually, PWC survey actually mentioned a lot of important numbers that can highlight that the Middle East is facing a great challenge toward fighting the financial crime. For example, 42% of the respondents are suffering from procurement fraud. And actually, the problem is that this percentage is double the global percentage. Okay, and also 47% of the respondents reported an incident for customer fraud, and also 45% of the respondents said that there are many uncovered cases of bribery and corruption. And by the way, this percentage, the problem is not the percentage itself, which is 45%, but the problem is that this percent is 15% higher compared to the global percentage. So all these percentages in the PWC survey indicates that there is a problem. But from my perspective, is this the only report that's saying that? No. If we look, for example, for Basel Index, okay, according to Basel Index 2020, the risk levels in the Middle East and North Africa are higher than the global average. And if we go to other things like the previous studies, for example, it revealed that financial crimes have continued to increase despite the tough policy measures put in place in developed and in developing countries. Okay, the last estimate is about 1.5 trillion, which is about 2% of the GDP in both developing and developed countries are paid only for bribes, and this actually is a huge amount. I think that all of this highlights that we are facing a big problem, especially in the Middle East, compared to the overall average. But we can go back to the question, can such crimes impact the economy? Of course, yes. And we have different numbers also that can prove that it has a negative consequences in the economy. For example, according to the World Bank in 2017, they said that about the poor people in the developing countries, they pay about 6.4 to 12.6% of their incomes in bribe. And also the tax evasion. If we look for another category of the financial crime, like tax evasion, for example, we will find that in Europe, for example, it was estimated in 2011, 860 billion annually is evaded. And if this has a negative consequences, it can appear in Greece. Yeah, you can see what happened in Greece. We will find that there is a big economic problem in Greece, and this is apparently because of the tax evasion, because the tax evasion is estimated to be equal 1/3 of the total tax revenues. And by the way, this 1/3 is equal to its budget deficit. Because as we know that the tax evasion is the main source of revenue for the whole government. So if there is a reduction in the tax revenues, it means that the government will not be able to do the public service. And also, if we look for the Panama paper leaks, before, it's also documented that the tax evasion is likely what's widespread and significant everywhere. So from all of this, we can say that the financial crime can affect negatively the economy and can has negative consequences in the economic growth and also tax, especially the tax evasion. If we focus on the tax evasion, we can see that it affects the income distribution and the allocation of resources. And this is very, very important thing for the economy.
When we look at regional global economies, positive anti-money laundering, known as AML ratings, have a significant impact on a nation's credit ratings and their ability to attract foreign investment. This affirms the fundamental importance of initiatives that are taken on a national level to create a business friendly environment where strategies to fight money laundering and terrorist financing are in place. But when we look at the numbers, particularly in a report published by the firm Refinitiv, which found that three-quarters of organizations have fallen victim to financial crime in the last year, accumulating losses of $1.45 trillion, we have to wonder, I mean, are governments actually able to deter financial crime? I mean, yes, it does impact them and it's huge, but is it deterrable?
Of course, yes. The government or the governments are able to deter the financial crime, but they should work on this. Uh, from my perspective, there are different things that the government should do in order to be able to fight the financial crime. Uh, the first important thing is the public governance in any country. They should care about the public governance inside the country. And if we are following the World Bank, we will see that the public governance is depending on, or they identify six main indicators for the public governance. So I think that any government should work on these six indicators. For example, we should improve the rule of law. We should work on the control of corruption. We should work on the regularity quality. And also, two important things which are also important is the voice and accountability in the political stability. And in addition, the government effectiveness. And I will give more attention to government effectiveness here because the government effectiveness, of course, we can improve it through the digitalization. This is one thing to improve the public governance. The second thing, which I believe that it's very crucial and very important, is the education. Because I will quote something by Sir Kevin Collins. He said that an educated population is wealthier, healthier, and more law-abiding. And this is very important. So investing in education is not good only for children, but it's also good for economies and societies. Why? Because actually, when the people are well educated, they will understand the negative consequences of financial crimes in individual level and in also in aggregate level. So, from my perspective, the government should work on improving its public governance and should work on the investment in education. And also, the third thing is culture. Of course, the people, there is a problem in the perception of the financial crime. And if we go to when we are saying for what is financial crime, you will see that they are calling it white collar crime. And when I see white, what is white? What is white in this? It should be black collar crime. How it's white? Because actually, when we are saying that it's a white collar crime, the people are feeling their feelings toward the financial crime is not the same as street crimes. It's not the same. Their perspective is not the same, especially when the people feel that that the government is not dealing with them in a fair way. So when someone, for example, evade from tax or something like that, the people are happy that they are doing this. They are not understanding the negative consequences of such financial crime. And of course, we need to know that the financial crime can lead to street crime in the future. And for example, if we look for Baker's economic theory of crime, we will find that the people resort to crime only if the cost of committing the crime are lower than the benefits gained from it. And they found that the poverty increase the street crime. Okay, so if for example we have financial crimes, these financial crimes will increase the poverty of the people. So if the poverty increase, it means that the street crime itself will increase. So we need, I believe, that we need to create what's called the shame culture of doing such crimes. The shame culture. This is very important. In addition to all of this, the government should work on the digitalization, because from my perspective that if we try to digitalize all the process, it means that the direct relationship between the people and the fraudsters or the preparators will decrease, and this can affect positively the situation.
We talk about awareness as well as a key factor, and when you think of the private sector and the fact that 73% of organizations across the Middle East are actually very well aware about financial crimes. In Saudi, it's 85%. But the adoption to the tools needed to protect companies is relatively slow. So whilst awareness is there, adoption and adaptation are a bit lagging. Why do you think that is, and what do you think is causing this delay?
I mentioned before that we need three things: the public governance and the education and the culture.
Digitalization, aka digitization, though they're relatively different from each other, but frequently referred to in the same context, are transforming the fight against financial crime. The migration away from traditional paper based processes has optimized both speed and efficiency for the finance and accounting profession. But even though digital transformation is paving the way for increased protection against corruption, exploitation, data breaches, uh, such advantages are also presenting equal opportunity for criminals. I mean, we're not the only ones benefiting from this. Can we really say that digitalization, that the process of it can actually help to mitigate or prevent financial crime? And if so, what needs to happen beyond the elements that you mentioned, education, awareness, and those three factors? What needs to happen in order for this to take place and be fully implemented?
Okay. First, I believe that digitalization is more important than digitization, because digitalization means that we are transforming the whole business process to a digital thing. But digitization means that we're just converting the data to digital format. So I believe that we need to talk about digitalization as a whole. This is the first thing. The second thing, I did a study on the impact of the adoption of digitalization on tax evasion. And I tried to test whether the digitalization will affect negatively the tax evasion. I mean, will deter the financial crime, will reduce the financial crime, or it has no effect. It's not significant. It's insignificant. It will not affect any of these kinds of crimes. And I did this test for 139 countries, by the way, and the findings was yes, the findings was that there is a negative relationship between digitalization and tax evasion, which means that the digitalization will help in reducing the financial crime. And actually, these results was the same results, whether it's a government digitalization or business digitalization or even people digitalization. So whatever is the type of digitalization we worked on, this of course will help in reducing the financial crime and to deter the financial crime. And as we know that depending on electronic cash, for example, or on the blockchain technology, I think it will help in reducing such kind of crimes. Because as we know that, for example, the blockchain technology, we can see that it has main characteristics that help to reduce the crime by the lack of centralization, the lack of information on users, that the transaction cannot be undone, and this is also very important, and also the autonomy. So all these characteristics of the blockchain technology, I think, will help to reduce the financial crime in the future. But again, it's not a guarantee. We cannot guarantee that it will reduce till now, till this point, because um, we are looking for one side, which are the victims. We need to protect the victims. But there is another side of the equation, which is the fraudsters and the perpetrators. Are they try to improve themselves or not?
Yeah, of course they will. And when I mean, some figures really are jaw-dropping for me. Like, according to global records, only 1% of criminal proceeds generated in the EU alone are actually confiscated by authorities. I mean, this pretty much states the magnitude of the problem. 1%. Is digitalization a promise of more efficient outcomes ahead?
Yeah, 1% is very low, of course. And I think that if we are following the Financial Action Task Force, which sets the standards for anti-money laundering arrangement, it found that the regulatory regime is highly inefficient. And I believe that the digitalization will help to increase the regime efficiency. But we have another thing, which is related to the allocation of resources. We are still want to focus the resources on the important thing, which is digitalization. And also, it's very important to have the skilled people in our system who are able to highlight any problems. It's not about having a system and that's it. We need also a qualified personnel. Um, but from my perspective, again, the adoption of digitalization will help in reducing the financial crime. But again, we need to look for the fraudsters and the perpetrators, because also, as you know, that uh, when we close one opportunity, they can create another opportunity.
um, the COVID-19 pandemic and that sudden transition to remote operations exposed companies the world over to increased chances of cyber attacks. If we look at the figures from June of last year and just for a period of 3 to 4 months, just into the pandemic, more than 2.57 million phishing attacks were detected. And that's just in the Middle East. What can be done to kind of curve that fraud triangle and kind of prevent it from increasing during times of crises?
Um, I have two things here. First, if we are talking about COVID-19 pandemic, we need to see whether the financial crime affect the pandemic or not at the beginning. And actually, I tested this also. I found that the tax evasion and corruption increased the risk of COVID-19, because when the tax evasion increase and the corruption increase, it means that the government are facing deficits. And of course, this deficit or budget deficit is affecting negatively the public health, because there is no enough beds, there is no enough, for example, resources for the people who are suffering. So it means that it increased the risk for the COVID-19 pandemic. This is the first thing. And the second thing is, or the main question is, what can be done for the fraud triangle prevention and during times of crisis? Let's talk about the fraud triangle itself. The fraud triangle has three edges. The first is pressure, the second is opportunity, and the third is rationalization. And from my perspective, that most of the people who are committing the crime, they want to rationalize to themselves that we need to do this crime. And this rationalization can be, for example, one employee wants to embezzle something from the company, so he's telling himself that I want to do this action because they are not giving me what I deserve, or I'm doing a lot of work, I'm not getting any income, and so on. So he tried to rationalize the behavior. But if we look deeply inside the psychological thing or related to this fraudster, we will find that he might be affected by the person associated to him, or it can be because of his low self-control. This is because for the rationalization part. The second part is the pressure. Of course, anyone wants to do crime if he is facing, especially financial pressure. And I believe that with poverty and with the inefficiency of the government, this might increase the pressure on people, especially in COVID pandemic. If we are, most of the people now, the unemployment, for example, is increasing because of COVID. So if the unemployment increase, it means that the people are more under pressure, and this, of course, will increase the opportunity for more crimes. The third thing is the opportunity. The opportunity, I believe that the digitalization can reduce the opportunity for having or for doing or for committing the crime. Because as we know, what is an opportunity? It means that there is a problem in the internal control system. So if we use the digitalization, it can solve part of these problems. But again, this opportunity also can be increased if the fraudsters improve themselves also, because we need to talk also about the fraudsters. Because when we improve ourselves at the victims, the fraudsters at the same time they will try to improve themselves.
Yeah, they're at the same pace, even faster. I
Yes,
mean,
yes, this is the issue. Again, I believe that we need to care about themselves, and we need to think from the fraudster perspective.
yeah, I mean that's a key factor. I think that's ultimately the biggest fear, that as much as we advance, they too are advancing. And
Yes,
you look at all these latest developments in the fintech industry. I mean, they're brilliant, unprecedented in any point in human history. They simplified so many financial transaction processes, and the accounting profession is excelling because of it. And it's really transforming the profession, if anything. But if we were to give a piece of advice to our audience, who's mostly finance and accounting professionals, what can private sector companies do to ensure that they do not become the targets for financial crimes? And even if they are targeted, that it's done in a way where they do not fall victims to it. And tagged to that question, is investment in digital capability sufficient? And then how much reskilling and upskilling of resources, equally to those that criminals are doing, are needed in the fight against financial crime in this really highly evolving digital era?
first, investment in high technology is very important. It's very important, especially in reducing, for example, one of the types of the important types like customer fraud, for example. Because it was noticed that when we use high tech or high technology, the customer fraud is increasing. And but at the same time, which is also very important, that we should care about the internal control systems. And we should give more attention to the internal control system, to the corporate governance, in addition to having a highly skilled people. Yeah, we cannot depend on just we cannot depend on the graduated people like before. Only since he is graduated, so it's okay, so it's fine. We can appoint him, and that's it. No, this is not the case now, because I believe, and even from my perspective also, that the universities all over the world, they should work on this. Yani, for example, in business schools, still till now, we are not introducing the machine learning. And, and of course, when we have graduated personnel, he is not well qualified now. He's not well qualified. يعني my advice to the organizations that they should appoint highly skilled people who are able to collect suitable data and analyze it and define the anomalies and the variances. This is the most important thing. And so I believe that companies should be careful while hiring the new employees, and also the capabilities of those employees should be high.
But that also includes investing in existing employees, making sure that they too are accelerating along with that.
Yes, this is also very important. The training. Yes, and I was surprised at the last years, and I understand this, that there is a huge reduction in the training cost everywhere. Even the training programs, if we trying to find the training programs all over the world, we will find that there is a cut in the training programs.
Yes,
Yes,
absolutely. That's the first thing that went, although it's actually more needed now than ever.
there is a cut in the training cost, of course, but from my perspective, to solve this problem, we can depend on the some websites that give courses, online courses, for example, to our so we can force the employees to take these courses, and these courses is free. So we can cut the cost, but at the same time, we can make sure that our employees are improving themselves. Also, of course, I don't want to say examples of this, but we have many websites that can help. For example, if we are talking for the IMA, for example, we have a lot of webinars, okay? And I think these webinars can add value to a specific to IMA members and to everyone. And I believe that the IMA is working on introducing some courses, and also these courses can help to improve the skills of people. Uh, so I believe that yes, we can cut the training course. I mean the direct training course, but we can find another way to improve the skills.
Yeah, and there are also, I mean, when you refer to IMA, there's an abundance of tools that are, accessible to IMA members, maybe more specifically, but there are a lot of assets that can be used, a lot of research. So, up to beyond the periodic updates to the CMA program, but you have a lot of assets that can be attained through, the IMA portal and the website. I mean, there's so much there, so much information, so much
Yes,
knowledge.
yes, of course.
Yeah.
Myself, if I'm talking about myself, I attended many courses which add value to me and introduced new topic and make me updated for a lot of things.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. There are multiple ways, but I think that that whole life learning approach of continuing to evolve, whether it's through webinars or
There is
reports
a
or
change, a big change, a huge change in the education way, even for our children. And we can see that they are not going to school maybe since 1 year ago. So it's yes, but they are learning online. There's now this. So to go back to our main topic, that of course it's very important to invest in high tech, okay, and it's very important to invest in our employees in their skills, and it's also very important to appoint a highly skilled people in the future.
This has been Count Me In, IMA's podcast, providing you with the latest perspectives of thought leaders from the accounting and finance profession. If you like what you heard and you'd like to be counted in for more relevant accounting and finance education, visit IMA's website at www.imanet.org.